Okay, so 3 major classes of visas that allow people to come and live and work in Hong Kong. What about family members? Well, Hong Kong is a very interesting place, again, very pragmatic in the implementation of immigration policy. Because actually, in order to get a dependent visa for your family members, you need to show that you are legally married and that your children who are joining you are under the age of 18 or in full-time employment, full-time education. And if you can meet those conditions, then the principal employment or business investment visa holder needs to be able to show that he can put, or she can put, a roof over the head of his family members and food on the table of the family members. And that in the case of especially a new marriage where there are no children, that the relationship is a genuine relationship. It's not such a problem. But the real beauty of getting a dependent visa is that with that permission, you as the dependent visa holder are free to do any kind of activity in Hong Kong whatsoever. So you can join in a business, you can start a business, you can work for somebody else, you can study, you can paint pictures of the harbour, whatever it is that you wish to do. So once you get the dependent visa, your ability to engage with society is unrestricted as long as it's legal. Which is ironic, because if you're going to get an employment visa or a business investment visa, the immigration department make you jump through all these hoops to be able to secure that status. But once you get a dependent visa, you're home free. You don't have any of those things to be concerned about. So this could be interesting in the situation if you have a husband and wife business team situation and you want to come to Hong Kong. You get one of them an investment visa and you get the other a dependent visa. You stay silent as to the intentions of the spouse that's getting the dependent visa for joining in the business, because the approvability test for the dependent visa is to show dependency, roof over head, food on table. But you stay silent as to the intention behind the spouse who's going to be getting the dependent visa, and after approval, he or she can immediately join the business and do all the things that they plan to do as a business team anyway. Okay, so that deals with dependent visas. What about if you're a non-traditional family? If you are a de facto spouse, where you're life partners, but you have decided for your own reasons that you're not going to marry? Well, strictly speaking, to get a dependent visa, you need to be legally married. But if you're a de facto spouse, if you have a de facto spouse relationship, what the immigration department do is, rather than break up the family, they will give to the trailing partner a prolonged visitor visa, which is exactly the same visa as you get at the airport. But instead of having to keep coming and going in and out of Hong Kong every 3 months to extend your visitor visa, you go to the immigration department in advance. You submit an application that looks very much like a dependent visa application. And you show that the principal partner in Hong Kong that has the employment or the business investment visa can put a roof over the head of the partner and food on the table of the partner. You can show that, and as long as there has been a prior cohabitation prior to coming to Hong Kong, then the immigration department will give a prolonged visitor visa to the trailing partner. The problem with the prolonged visitor visa is it really is just what I call a slippers and pipe visa, because the partner can do nothing more than wait at home for the husband to come back at the end of each day and hand him his slippers and his pipe. That's all that they can do. So whilst it's a pragmatic solution to keeping a family unit together, it isn't a very satisfactory immigration status which the de facto spouse actually is able to secure. There is one condition precedent to a prolonged visitor visa for a de facto spouse situation. And that is, both parties must be free to marry, but choose not to. So it can get very complicated if, for example, in the case of, say, Filipinos, where they don't have a divorce law, where relationships from 10, 15, 20 years ago could have broken down, and the parties have moved on, and they're doing different things with their own lives now, and they find themselves in Hong Kong, and they can't get a dependent visa because they're not legally married, and they can't get a prolonged visitor visa because they are not free to marry. So there is a wrinkle to the prolonged visitor visa. So that's the situation in relation to unmarried partners. But also, what about if you're a gay partner? What happens in that situation? Well, same-sex partners are treated in exactly the same way as heterosexual de facto partners. You need to be able to show that you're in a lifelong, committed, loving relationship, that you've been living together before you came to Hong Kong, and that one partner is going to sponsor the other partner. And this is a policy that the Immigration Department don't advertise, and they are very flexible, and they're open and amenable to the granting of prolonged visitor visas to same-sex partners. But unfortunately, even if you're married as a same-sex partner, or you have a civil union as a same-sex partner, you still can't get a dependent visa, because dependent visas are restricted to heterosexual, legally married partners only.